Yes, guys, what's happening? And welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. And tomorrow evening, the newly crowned Club of the Year head across London to Vicarage Road to take on former manager Claudio Ranieri's Watford side. And it's an opportunity straight away for Chelsea to try and rectify things after a disappointing 1-1 draw at home to not West Ham, sorry, at home to Manchester United. Obviously, we need to get a win to stay top of the league. So it is obviously important that we do so heading into the busy Christmas period. Joining me to preview the game, as always, is George. Thanks for joining me, mate. And we are joined by a friend of ours, Lewis, who is a Watford fan, to get the Watford perspective ahead of this game. Lads, thanks for joining as always. George, before we get on to Watford, how important is it for Chelsea to get back to winning ways after the slip-up against Man United? And with City and Liverpool not looking like they're dropping too many points at the moment, it is imperative that we win this game.
Yeah, we've got to put the Manchester United game behind us. Missed chances. Watford's not going to be easy, but it's probably one of those games on the calendar you feel as if you'd be disappointed if you get anything less than 4 points. There's no disrespect to Watford, but as a club going for the league, I think you've got to take points at Vicarage Road and Stamford Bridge when you play the reverse fixture. I'd probably say it's come at the right time because with a difficult game with Manchester United, it was always going to be difficult with Ollie not in charge and Carrick having his first full game in charge in the Premier League. But again, I think Watford have been the big hitters in recent years, taking apart the big teams, and they do tend to do well when they come up. They don't have any problem getting fired up for big games. So it's a tough one, especially with, I'm sure, as you'll come on to, all the injury news and everything else that we've got that's potentially problematic. But we'll see. But I'm expecting a win tomorrow.
And Lewis, from a Watford perspective, obviously there's been a managerial change already this season, which is kind of par for the course these days at Watford. It's kind of how the Pozzos do business. Claudio Ranieri's been in the post for a few weeks now. What have you made of what he's done so far? Obviously, a convincing win against Manchester United and a great performance away at Goodison Park. But then obviously some not so good results against the likes of Leicester and other teams that perhaps you would expect to be doing a little bit better against. How do you assess the start to the season? Obviously, I think you're sitting about 4 points above the drop zone.
Yeah, he's started to input his ideas into the team. We've had a few good, especially I feel like we played really well. It's just difficult to really work out actually how well we've actually done so far, because we had a great result, like you said, against Everton, but then Everton haven't been doing too well anyway, and then United, and they've been on like a really, really poor run of form. So it's really difficult to actually tell a test, like, tomorrow will be a massive test to see actually, well, how good are we doing at the moment, and how good Ranieri's thoughts and input into the team and everything's showing or not. But we haven't even won 2 games in a row yet this season, so we just need to build some consistency. Obviously, we've been above the relegation zone most of the season, so that's obviously a positive point. But we need to start winning more than one game and just build a bit of a run of form together. But yeah, tomorrow night will be a tough game. And
I presume for Watford, the aim this season is just as simple as basically stay up. Is it as simple as that? Nothing else required, really?
Yeah, it's how it is every year, just for us to stay up. Obviously, the last time we were in the Premier League a few years ago, it was the first year stay up, and then obviously next year try and obviously do a bit better. But this year we've been in and around the relegation zone pretty much the season. So yeah, that's our aim. Try and hit that 40 points, or maybe it'll be a bit less than that, 38 points this season, and hopefully we can stay up and then kick on for next season.
And in terms of obviously kind of heading into tomorrow night, team news, etc. Obviously, there's been a few standout performers this season. Obviously, the likes of Ismail Assar. Dennis, I think, has done quite well as well. Obviously, Ben Foster in goal, even though he's getting on a little bit, he's still putting in some top-level performances. Who, as Chelsea fans, should we be kind of aware of tomorrow night? Who kind of like Watford's most dangerous players?
Josh King's done really, really well since we signed him. He like bit of a slow start to the team, but he's started to hit some form and started to hit a few goals in. Kuchka is quite good, so he's attacking, defensive midfielder, and then Cucho Hernandez is also pretty good. But to be honest, I couldn't tell you who will be playing tomorrow, because since Ranieri's come in, he hasn't started with the same team every single game. He's changed it a lot, as he usually does anyway. And also, we've got quite a few players injured. We've got a few players injured out against Leicester, and then against United, we've got a few players injured as well. So it's going to be, won't be a full strength squad, but hopefully it'll be the best we can, and obviously, hopefully enough that we can try and cause you guys some problems.
And George, how much of a bonus is it from a Chelsea perspective that Ismaila Sarr is going to be missing the game? Obviously, a really exciting player. When Watford went down, reports of him possibly going to Manchester United or Liverpool. That didn't quite materialise. Obviously, a season in the Championship, and he's come back up and he's doing pretty well. I think a couple of goals against United in that 4-1 win. That's a big bonus for us, isn't it?
Yeah, psychologically, and then on the pitch, you're going to always have a bit of a lift when they haven't got their first choice goalkeeper, if you like to call him that, at this age, not in goal, and then obviously Sarr not up top at the other end. So he's been a standout player, not just for Watford, but in the Premier League this year. I think it is going to be a tough game just on the back of the draw, and obviously we've got some injury concerns ourselves, and we've had a few very odd results there. I think last time we lost 4-1 or something like that.
4-2 last season.
4-2. I can't remember when that was. I don't know if that was when Thibaut Courtois was in goal, and that was that Kante? I don't know. I can't remember.
No, it wasn't last season. So we were in the Championship. It was the season before that.
No, it might have been Lampard, maybe, or could have been Sarri.
Yeah. So it's one of those where I just think they can cause upsets against the big sides. But listen, Chelsea are still in hot form. I don't think we had a bad performance on Sunday at all by any stretch. I think we were just unlucky. We didn't have a clinical person on the end of the chances we created. It was as simple as that. And even then, we still had chances to win. So I still believe Watford are probably good enough to stay up this season. There's certainly teams below them that play worse football. But they will be in and around that mix. I think it's really tough this year, particularly with sides like Villa on the up, Brighton playing extremely well, that you'd probably expect at the beginning of the season would have been down there. So I'm looking forward to it as always. But we definitely need to get the 3 points tomorrow. There's no doubt about that.
And Lewis, if Watford are going to get anything out of this game tomorrow, what is it imperative that they do well? Any areas that have got to really click to try and get a result from this game?
Yeah, defensively we've been really poor recently, especially against Leicester. Conceding 4 goals is just not really good enough. But even just the whole season, we just haven't been good enough defensively. So if we make the defence strong against you guys, and then get you on the counter attack and just try and do some good play, then hopefully we'll get something from the game. But like George said earlier, we do always play very well against the better teams. I don't know why, we're just usually more up for it, so you never know. But yeah, defensively we need to be strong, but it's a shame we've got Ben Foster out, because he's stronger than Bachmann in goal, and he's out now till January. So but let's see what happens. Hopefully,
it's going to be a tough game. I mean, why do you feel it is that Watford kind of seem to be more up for the games against the bigger sides and kind of are able to get results, and then in and around the teams that they need to be beating, etc., the performance levels kind of aren't quite there? Do you think there's a reason for that at all?
I think it's, I guess, playing the bigger teams, you sort of go into the mentality of maybe you've got nothing to lose really, so you may as well just go for it and then see what happens. And obviously the teams in and around us are going to be probably a bit more nervous, and sometimes obviously then you can make mistakes through that way. So but yeah, Everton, no one probably expects us to get a good result there. United as well. Villa, first game of the season, but that's sort of, it could have gone either way. And then I don't think we've won many other games. We've beat Norwich, but that's obviously Norwich. They're not that great. So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a tough game. Yeah,
it certainly is. But I mean, Vicarage Road should be bouncing tomorrow night. I mean, are you off to the game?
Yeah, I'm off there. Should be a good crowd actually. It should be full. So be bouncing, and yeah, hopefully we'll
all five of you.
Yeah.
No, it'll be him and Chris Stark from Radio 1.
Yeah.
But I mean, Lewis, are you pleased with Claudio Ranieri? Obviously, he's come in. He's a very experienced manager. He's obviously knows the Premier League inside out, having won the league with Leicester. He's obviously been at Chelsea. He's been at all manner of clubs around Europe.
Yeah.
Were you pleased with his appointment when he was announced?
Yeah, really pleased. I was actually quite surprised because usually Watford's way is to get someone in who we've just never heard of, and someone to just surprise everyone. Like, you know, they haven't got a huge amount of experience. Where Ranieri's like probably over the last like 7-8 years is the one person who we've got in who's got literally so much experience and knowledge of the game, and especially the Premier League as well. So I think obviously time will tell. Hopefully he'll be there till the end of the season. I can't see him going, even if we've have a few dodgy results, because our owners know him quite well. Apparently he's been invited for games before we actually signed him anyway. But yeah, like obviously when it gets nitty gritty, and you know, time will tell with the games who are playing like around near us, like Newcastle in January, Norwich again, Villa, Leeds. You know, all those games will really show how good he really is and what he can get out of the team as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think for teams like that are looking to stay up, like Watford are, anything you get in the big games is a bonus, and you're really going to be judged on, as you said, like what you can pick up against the sides in and around you. Lewis, before we let you go, what sort of a prediction are you going with tomorrow? Do you feel Watford can get anything out of this game?
Yeah, of course we can. I am going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Ooh, that Chelsea defence is watertight. Could be. I hope it's not breached twice, but yeah. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, I'd like to think we wouldn't let 2 in against Watford, but I mean, you never know. But I mean, it will certainly be a good game. But I mean, yeah, Lewis, thank you very much for joining us, mate, for the Watford perspective.
Yeah.
Enjoy the game tomorrow night. I hope don't enjoy it too much. And yeah, mate, we'll definitely check in with you soon. But yeah, thanks very much for joining us for the Watford preview and the Watford perspective on tomorrow's game. Thanks, mate.
On guys, thanks.
Cheers, mate.
I mean, George, moving on to obviously the Chelsea perspective now. Thomas Tuchel's press conference today. That injury list is not getting any smaller. It almost seems to be getting bigger. Obviously, Chilwell, as we know, is out, but N'Golo Kante and Kovacic still out. And news to us today that Reece James, Jorginho, and Timo Werner are all doubtful, and they'll be assessed last minute tomorrow. What's your reaction to that news?
Yeah, it's difficult, but you know, if you're going to win league titles, we've said it from day one that we think we have the best squad in the league. So now is the time to prove it, and I think players need to step up. And you can make excuses, and it can go very wrong, like it did for Liverpool last year without Virgil van Dijk and the rest. But we've got to crack on. As simple as that. These things happen, and we've won things with lesser teams, lesser squads, and it's that time of year, isn't it? Things, you know, come thick and fast. Players pick up knocks, and you kind of really have to manage your team as efficiently as possible. And I've got every faith in Thomas Tuchel to be able to do that. We're lucky that this probably happened. I mean, we don't know what the result will be, but we're probably going to be quite fortuitous that it's happening away to Watford than, let's say, Sunday. And listen, you know, Werner's probably wasn't going to play anyway, unless absolutely necessary because of his performance on Sunday. Jorginho probably would have played, but again, I think we can put in players that can do another job. So let's be optimistic, but let's just see. You know, we've got to step up to it. You know, it happens. It's football.
Mate, how concerned are you that heading into this busy Christmas period, that the squad seems to be being stretched to its absolute limit, and we seem to be picking up quite a lot of injuries? Not necessarily major injuries, but a lot of niggles here and there, like players missing a couple of games. When the games are coming thick and fast, that can be quite an issue, can't it? Particularly as we're chasing a league title. It
frustrates me, and I think we all remember very iconically that year where Mourinho's third year in charge, almost certain to win the league, and we just had a freak year, didn't we? Lost 2 goalkeepers, lost right backs, left backs, you know, and it did cost us. It cost us the league title that year. So it always worries me, particularly with how strong City's side are, that we're going to drop silly points. And again, we've said on the show numerous times, Chelsea, for whatever reason, when they have a great Christmas, they tend to go on and do great things. If they don't, it's never usually that great. So this is the critical part of our season now. Can we get through these games? You would say that the Manchester United game probably 2 points dropped if we're being
Yeah.
harsh. But this one, we cannot afford to drop points. There's absolutely no way. It doesn't matter what side's out there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this for me, I feel this period that we're entering now is make or break for our league challenge. If we can get through this period, if we can get to January, that game against Liverpool on the 2nd, and we're still top or we're within 2 to 3 points, the league is very much on. If we have a tricky Christmas period, I think we can forget it. I mean, do you think it's that crucial?
It's crucial, but I wouldn't say it's over. I think I do still think that Liverpool and City are suspect to drop points also this season. I don't think it's going to be as high a points tally as we've seen in previous seasons, just because of the African Cup of Nations for Liverpool. I expect them to drop points. And City, yes, they outscore a lot of teams, but they do come unstuck sometimes and are suspect to conceding goals. And we've seen that already, particularly at the Etihad. So I'm not going to say that, we're out of the title race if we, have a little bat, if we're 3 points, 4 points adrift. But it makes it very difficult because of the way it's so competitive this year that really you look back on the season and you think, if you don't win against Watford away from home, you probably don't deserve to win the league. I mean, that sounds a bit harsh, but we have already dropped some poor points this season.
Yeah. I mean, as have the other two challenges in the race. But as you say, the more the season goes on, the less you can afford to drop points. It's going to be fine margins this season. It looks like there's 3 teams firmly in the race, and they're not going to drop too many more points. So it's absolutely imperative that these sorts of games that we must win. Because at the end of the day, when you look back at the season, it's going to be the draws to the likes of your Burnleys, your Watfords, etc., that will be the difference between winning the league and not winning the league. But I mean, we still sit top by a point, but realistically, we just need to make sure that we stay there. And a win tomorrow is absolutely crucial. And then we head into another massive game on Saturday lunchtime, the early kickoff away at West Ham.
Yeah.
That's not going to be easy either. It's 3 big games in a space of 7-8 days. So this is a really testing time for the club for sure. But it is going to be one that will either make or break the season, I personally feel. I mean, George, let's move on to the predicted lineup now. This is going to be, some of these are going to be just through necessity that they have to be picked. But, I mean, do you feel that Thomas Tuchel, having just played Sunday afternoon, this game on the Wednesday evening with West Ham away in the early kickoff, do you feel there's going to be some rotation and he's going to make use of the squad?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to, just because of game management. Now, he's obviously going to set out to win and pick the best team possible. But sometimes I think that's a bit of a white lie, because your best team possible is the players that you want to play week in, week out. But that's not actually possible, because you have to keep players fresh and you have to keep in mind the games that we should be able to win if we're being arrogant in 3rd, 4th gear. And this is one of those games. Now, obviously, if we show that on the pitch that we're arrogant and we go 3rd, 4th gear, we're obviously then suspect to losing, because you can't afford to do that in the Premier League. But what I'm saying is we should still have too much for Watford, even with a weakened side. So I do expect rotation. And like you've mentioned, mate, with the injuries, it's going to be very hard to predict the lineup.
I mean, let's start between the sticks. I think it's fairly obvious that it's going to be Edouard Mendy.
Yeah.
I don't think you're not likely to see much rotation with the goalkeepers. Even in this busy period, you don't really tend to see a lot of rotation there. I mean, how important is it for him that he is a good game tomorrow? Slightly below par against United, particularly with his distribution. He's going to be important because, particularly from set plays, we could be under a bit of a barrage, very physical side, Watford. It's important that he continues his good form. And he was robbed last night at the awards of the Yashin Trophy. Somehow Donnarumma won it instead of him, which was an absolute farce. But anyway, important night for him tomorrow, as always.
Yeah, as always, it always starts on the goalkeeper. I wouldn't expect him to be too busy, but you never know. I mean, if the back 5 or back 3 has to change quite considerably, then he might be under a bit more pressure than he's used to. So he needs to be alert tomorrow, probably more than usual. So, but I have no doubts. I mean, we don't have to talk much about Mendy. I mean, he's been unbelievable, and he continues to do so.
I mean, George, this is where it gets interesting. For the last 3 games, Leicester, Juventus, and Man United, we've had the same back 3 in Rudiger, Thiago Silva, and Trevor Chalobah. I would be very surprised with West Ham coming up at the weekend and the amount of games we've had and have got coming up if we saw that same back three again. I mean, out of the three, I would suggest that Thiago Silva is probably due a rest.
Yeah.
We need him for West Ham. Out of the two games we've got coming up this week, West Ham away is obviously more important than this one. Obviously, this one is important because it's the next game and we need to win. But you'd think out of the two, we can get by without Thiago Silva in this one. Would you expect him to be rested and perhaps Andreas Christensen come back in?
Yeah, it's boring, but I agree. I think if there's one in there, you've got to rest Thiago just because of the age and because how important he is. Rudiger in the form of his life and got a bit more energy, so you'd expect him to play. And then it's a good opportunity, I think, for Christensen, who can still do a very good job. So yeah, I would. That's the change I'm expecting with obviously probably Trevor Chalobah to make up the three. Yeah,
so you think tomorrow night Chalobah, Christensen and Rudiger?
I think so, yeah. Don't think
any space for Aspie to come into that back three.
Well, again, like you said, I think if Reece James is doubtful, then he might play Aspie on the right. If James plays, then he might go with Aspie instead of Christensen. So I don't know, and then swap Rudiger and put him in the middle. I don't know, but I'd expect those three.
Yeah, I would expect that as well. I think Chalobah and Rudiger are in the form of their lives, and Thiago Silva at 37, who's obviously been fantastic. Yeah. We need to give him a rest. He's played a lot of football recently, 3 games in the last week. Mm-hmm. I don't think he can play another 3 games in a week, and I think we should rest him for West Ham, which is obviously a massive game for us. George, this is where it gets tricky. Obviously, Reece James is doubtful. They're going to do some last-minute checks before the game tomorrow. If he's doubtful at all, we shouldn't risk him, should we? We should just put Aspie in at right wing back, and make sure that James is 100% for West Ham at the weekend. Is that kind of the line of thinking you'd go down?
Oh yeah, I don't think it's complicated at all. I think it's quite straightforward. I think if there's any risk at all to Reece James and he's doubtful, I think you rest him. Azpilicueta is not a replacement for James by any stretch. Yes, no. He's not as electric or physical or a world beater going forward, but he's very experienced club captain, legend, a quality defender. So no, it's Alonso and Azpilicueta for me. If James is doubtful, if he's not, it's Alonso and James. It's as simple as that.
I mean, for me, I think Aspie should play in this game. If you're looking in this run of fixtures we've got coming up, where to rest Reece James, he's not going to be able to play them all. Watford away is one you'd pencil in as, actually, we can probably get by without Reece James. We could, even if he's doubtful, just leave him on the bench and we can bring him on if needs be. So I personally feel that. We don't know what Tuchel's going to do, but this is what we do. This is our lineup. I personally, we both agree, wouldn't take the risk with Reece James tomorrow. Because if he's not 100% fit, we don't want to be picking up another injury to Reece James.
No. But again, he might completely throw a curveball, play Aspie in one of the centre 3 and play Hudson there.
Yeah, maybe. But I was going to come on to that, George. Obviously, in the presser today, Tuchel's saying that Alonso is our specialist at left wing back. We trust him. He's played well, obviously, when called upon this season. But he also spoke up of Callum Hudson Odoi's ability to be able to play left wing back. Now, again, Alonso, this would be three matches in the space of 7 days or less than a week. Do we feel that he's going to play? He's got the capabilities to play all 3, or do you think we could perhaps see a surprise and we could see Callum Hudson-Odoi at left wing back tomorrow night?
No, I think Alonso play. I think he's fresh enough, even though he's played recently. I think he's also had a lot of time on the bench since Chilwell's been playing, so he's going to be a lot fresher than some of those other players. I think if you tinker with it too much, I think you're almost playing, more than half of the back 5 together for the first time in a long time. So I think that can be recipe for disaster, particularly when you're playing away from home. So I wouldn't change it too much. Obviously, again, if Reece James is fit, he'll play. If not, he won't. But Alonso, for me, will play. I think he's fresher than most of those players.
No, what's this? Cho's ability is to play for Hoffenheim, not Chelsea. Well, I'm not sure about that. I think that's a load of nonsense, really. But each to their own opinions. I think Callum's proven that he's good enough to play for Chelsea. Tuchel trusts him. 8 or 9 starts on the spin. Yes, he's got to improve his finishing, but not many players at 21 have got all aspects of their game locked down. So yeah, I've got to be honest, that's a load of nonsense. But yeah, but we move on. So yeah, Alonso, I would agree, but I equally wouldn't be surprised if we did see Callum in that position, just because we've got West Ham coming up at the weekend.
But I would be worried. I would be worried if
I'd be slightly concerned if we start tinkering too much. I would agree. George, midfield, down to the bare bones here. Obviously, Kante, Kovacic out, Jorginho doubtful. Would you risk Jorginho? I personally wouldn't, but that means we're then going with a pivot of Loftus-Cheek and Sal Niguez, unless do you think he could do something like potentially drop Mason Mount in a bit deeper?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think in that scenario, I think you play Mount in there.
But can we really go Mount in a double pivot with someone? It's not really. It's not very well balanced at all, is it?
It's not. But again, you've got to look at the overall picture. I think Mount's a much more stabilised option than going, like you said, with something like Loftus-Cheek and Sal Niguez. I mean, who's taking control of that midfield? Who's the one that's going to make the decisions? Who's the one that's going to break up? I think that is definitely a recipe for disaster. And I think if you're missing Jorginho, Kante and Kovacic, you need someone who's just a bit more level-headed. And I think Mount offers that, again, with his pressing and his ability to carry the ball in between the lines. So for me, I play Mount. But I mean, I don't see Tuchel doing that, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree, but I just think we'd be too lightweight in the middle if we go with a pivot of Mount and Ruben or Mount and Sal Niguez. Yeah, I mean, do we presume that Ruben Loftus-Cheek's going to play?
Yeah, I presume so. I think he didn't have a great game against Manchester United, but I think this is more of a game where he can really kind of take control.
How big an opportunity again is this for Ruben? How imperative is it that he obviously steps up his level of performance from what he did against United?
Mate, I feel like this season is make or break for him, particularly this moment right now. I think we've been talking, and it's time for the talking to stop. I think these games, they aren't going to come around much more often when all the rest of the players are fit. And if he doesn't take these opportunities, as harsh as it seems, it could be the end of his Chelsea career. I really do think he needs to stand out in these games and be counted.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when we're linked with the likes of Declan Rice in the summer, Tchouaméni, the young Monaco midfielder as well, all coming into an area where Ruben will be playing, it's imperative now that he really shows what he can do, because this season is make or break. George, in the other pivot, I mean, Mason Mount, I can't see Thomas Tuchel doing that. Jorginho, obviously fresh off coming third in the Ballon d'Or, so congratulations to him. A fantastic season last year, winning a lot of trophies. Again, same with Reece James. If he's doubtful, with West Ham coming up in the lunchtime kickoff on Saturday, there's no need to risk him, is there?
No. This is a difficult one. I get what you're saying about the balance and who's going to partner him, but this is a really tough one to call. I'm not sure. I mean, like I've said, I probably would go Mason Mount, but I really don't know what he's going to do here. Sal Niguez in a game like this. Well,
he's going to have to play at some point, given the amount of fixtures we've got coming up and the injuries we've got. He's going to have to play at some point. I mean, I'd rather he played in this game than play against West Ham.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. If you're going to put it like that, then yeah, I agree. But for me, I've seen enough of Sal Niguez to say he can go back. That's I mean, so do you include someone for inclusion's sake? I don't know.
Mate,
what about Ross Barkley?
Mate, he can't play in a pivot.
Well, Tuchel does like Ross Barkley.
He does. Mate, you cannot play a midfield two of Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Ross Barkley. Absolutely not. I mean, I would expect Barkley to be on the bench, and I think he could feature for some minutes from the bench. But mate, there's no way he's going to start in a pivot. George, front three again. This is difficult. Tuchel saying that Lukaku should be available for more minutes. That for me suggests that he's not going to start. He got 10 minutes at the weekend, and he said afterwards that was more than he wanted to give him. So perhaps we'd expect maybe 20 minutes to half an hour off the bench. In that case, I mean, Timo Werner's a doubt, and he was terrible against Man United. We're expecting Kai Havertz to be restored to that false nine position.
I guess so. For me, it's a toss-up between him or Pulisic playing in that role. I'd like to see Pulisic there, but I think it probably will go back to Kai Havertz. I'd be very surprised if Werner plays after that performance. But again, maybe because needs must, he might revert to just going with Werner and then seeing. The only thing I'd say is Werner might get a bit more luck playing against the side away from home. As we said, for that counter attack and that bit more space in behind.
But they're still going to play a low block though. That's the problem. Watford will play low block. I mean, they'll probably have more of a go because they're at home, but it's going to. Let's be honest, it's going to be a low block. They're not just going to be throwing everything forward and leaving loads and loads of space behind.
No,
I think it's got to be Kai Havertz. It has to be for me. The other two positions are interesting. I mean, is this a game for Mason Mount to come back into the lineup? I know Hakim Ziyech has done really well recently. Do we keep playing him, or is it time to reintegrate Mount back in?
Hudson?
No, Ziyech.
Oh, for me, I don't rate Hakim Ziyech. Again, this is a personal opinion, so I'm trying to think what I would do, what Thomas Tuchel would do. I know you and Theo both thought that he had an okay game, probably one of the better of the three up top there. But for me, again, Watford will be physical. I think he's suspect to losing the ball in dangerous areas. So I don't know. Unsure on this position. I'd probably go Mason then. If you're not going to play him in that one, I'd put Mason in.
I think Mount does need some. He needs some minutes. He needs minutes to get back into the side. If we're gonna head into West Ham, we probably want him to have a few more minutes. So that's a game you look at, and he'd probably start Mount in that game. So I think he does need, even if he only plays an hour or so in this game. For me, as well as Ziyech has done, I think this is our lineup that we'd like to go for. I think it will be Mount on that side.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hakim Ziyech at all. George, the left-hand side, obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi has done very well in recent weeks.
Yeah.
I feel that it's probably going to, I think this could be a game that might suit Christian Pulisic. I think Callum could well be rested. He started the last 9 games. He's played a lot of minutes, and rightly so. He's done very well. But do you think this could be a game that might suit Pulisic?
I think it suits Pulisic perfectly, and he would be my choice. But again, is he going to risk? Is Pulisic fully fit to play a full match? We don't know.
Well, even if he plays an hour, that's enough.
Yeah. I would choose Pulisic, but again, Callum Hudson-Odoi, he likes him a lot. He's playing well. Would have been disappointed at the weekend that he didn't score. So do you take out a player who needs to put a wrong right? It's difficult, but for me, I agree. I think Pulisic, this is a perfect game. I'd expect him to get a couple of goals if he starts tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got options in that front three. Mate, this guy in the chat is giving me a load of shit about Callum Hudson-Odoi. I mean,
I'm just going to put my sorry. Yeah.
Anyway, look. Callum is obviously, some Chelsea fans clearly don't rate him that much. I think he's a very talented boy. We're under no illusions that he needs to improve his end products for sure. But the guy is 21 years of age, and he will improve. We can't expect all aspects of his games to be polished. And yes, there's chances that against Burnley, against Man United, yes, he should find the back of the net, and that's one thing that he needs to improve on, and he knows that. But I think I have to say I changed my mind on this about sending him on loan. I thought in the summer window, perhaps we should have sent him on loan. I didn't really see where he was going to get a look in. But the injuries we've had as well, and the fact he can fill in at wing back as well, potentially, I think he's worth having in the squad. And the manager trusts him. And we all want him to do well. So I'm not going to get into an argument about whether Hudson-Odoi should be at Chelsea or not, because it's boring. George, looking at that lineup on paper, as we've put it there, I mean, it's not our best. I do worry about the midfield too slightly there, but more than enough to get a result against Watford tomorrow, you would suggest?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to stick to our guns and what we said, and we feel we've got the best squad in the Premier League, possibly Europe, in terms of like for like, man for man, quality for quality. So we can't complain. I completely agree. I think my biggest concern is that.
Always fun to interact and get involved, guys. Appreciate that. But the manager does trust him because he's started the last 8 or 9 games. So you can go fuck yourself, mate.
Whoa, called out on YouTube our first massive blow up. Yeah, go fuck yourself, mate.
Shit, English channel. So shit that you're watching it, mate. Cheers.
All jokes aside,
yeah.
he's. I do agree with my biggest concern is the midfield too. I think you've got to get that right. If we don't get that right tomorrow, it could be another tricky one that we look back on and think, oh, we got it wrong on the night and we've slipped up, because it could be a game we slip up. I mean, I know Manchester United were very poor, but they beat a team 4-1 that we're out of ideas, but they still had quite enough quality on that pitch, man for man, if you looked at the lineup. So you've got to worry, but I think we'll still have too much for Watford tomorrow, and I'm hoping we bounce back in some style as well. I think it'll be a fresh opportunity for some players to just express themselves out there.
Yeah, no, I think so, mate. And before we wrap it up, George, a score prediction from yourself. What are you going for?
I think it'll be slightly tighter than people think, but I'm gonna go 2-0 Chelsea.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tight game. I don't want to sound boring, but I'm gonna go for that same 2-0 scoreline. I think we should be able to keep Watford out. But yeah, it's imperative we win and we try and stay top of the league. Obviously, that's our lineup, guys. Let us know in the chat and the comments below if you agree with it, what you'd like to see, what you would do differently yourselves. But yeah, that's what myself and George have gone with. It'll be interesting to see how close we are to what Thomas Tuchel actually picks. But yeah, important game. We remain 1 point clear at the top. And really need to win to stay top, ideally. We don't really want to be slipping too far behind heading into the busy Christmas period. Guys, thanks as always for watching. If you tuned in live, thanks for the interaction in the chat. It's all banter. We do enjoy it. It's all love here. Nothing personal. Shit channel. Yep. So shit you're watching. Thanks for the comments, mate. And yeah, obviously not going to interact with any more of those comments. But yeah, thanks for getting involved, guys. I do enjoy it. Even the slightly negative ones. It's all good fun. If you're watching it back, we hope you enjoy it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you smash like on this video. Please do hit subscribe on the channel. We're approaching 200 subscribers now. Every subscriber helps, so please do that. It takes seconds and it really helps the channel out. So yeah, let's hope a win for tomorrow night for the boys at Vicarage Road, and we'll catch you in the match preview on Thursday. Cheers, guys.